I think what we have here in Hollywood is high art. It's party time, sparkle time!
Going into 2022, my most anticipated film of the year was Damien Chazelle's Babylon. Whiplash is one of the top 10 films of the 2010s, La La Land is a phenomenal musical, and even I thought First Man was a great film through its avoidable faults. So I was very excited when this was first announced, and you could probably guess that morale was through the roof when the first trailer dropped, and you'd be correct. It was all great until the review embargo dropped, and it started to worry me a lot. To say that it was divisive would be right on the money, with some people calling it Chazelle's magnum opus to others saying that it's one of the biggest embarrassments to the film industry. I think one of my favorite reviews to come off that initial embargo drop was that it was a love letter to cinema that made me hate cinema by Scott Menzel, which, wow, that's definitely a strike against the film. But I just couldn't believe it. There's no way the guy that directed First Man, La La Land, and Whiplash was gonna come out with a straight dud. But I did temper my expectations on it a bit, having it land somewhere closer to how I'd feel with First Man, which is nowhere near as great as the other two before it, but maybe still a good film at the end of the day. And now having seen it, I just really love this. If you've seen the trailers, and since you're watching the video you probably have, and maybe even watched the movie, it evokes the same energy as those trailers. Very fast, very in your face, and very excessive in its filmmaking. For better or for worse, honestly. This won't spoil anything in the film, but the party scene you see in the trailers is not only the peak of this overly aggressive train of action, but it's done in a way that it doesn't feel as draining as it probably should be, or as it's portrayed in those trailers. The way the camera moves, especially during a one-shot take in the main room, evokes an energy where you're part of something bigger, which you could say about the entire film. This really didn't feel like it took 3 hours of my day. Comparing it to something like Avatar: The Way of Water, this felt like a breeze to sit through. There are a number of great sequences in this that really help the pacing of the movie. Scenes that help interlace through characters we meet not only to make it flow very well in totality, but also help with developing our central characters and their endgame in the story. Diego Calva's Manny Torres and Margot Robbie's Nellie Leroy are the main leads of the film, with Brad Pitt's Jack Conrad almost joining them as like a sort of co-lead, I guess. Not only that, but the story also flows through other characters with Giovanna Depo's Sidney Palmer and Lee Jun Lee's Fei Zhu, whom each have their own central part in the careers of our leads. Now, the duo of Calva and Robbie, while very good throughout the film when together, if you compare it to Chazelle's other iconic duos in his previous 3 films, it's really only better than Gosling and Foy's, which isn't saying a lot because they were very cold and wooden throughout their film. Here though, I felt like their connection was underdeveloped just a bit. I don't need them to be me and Sebastian, but it definitely needs some more scenes of them together. And in a film where it's shooting at all cylinders in ambition and style, it does get in the way of the story just a bit, especially in the second act where it tries to keep up this raging pacing, and it just can't because it's constantly trying to punch at those highs in between when you're trying to develop character dynamics, and in some cases, character development. In the end though, I felt like Chazelle and his team did a great job at the very minimum, giving Manny, Nellie, and Jack well-developed arcs throughout the film. And speaking about those highs I mentioned earlier, saying they're great is a complete understatement. The direction, cinematography, use of score are phenomenal throughout these sequences, going beyond just the initial party scene. There are about 5 or 6 lengthy sequences in this that were just amazingly choreographed. Like you can literally see and feel the storyboards come to life. And with Chazelle's longtime collaborators, Lana Sangren as the film's DP and Justin Hurwitz as the composer, this is yet another technical masterpiece. Even through its sometimes messy storytelling, this is an epic for the ages by far. It's overly ambitious than it needs to be, which is why it's so divisive. Very excessive, very tiring at times, and very bold with the story it's trying to tell and the stage it's setting. It's exactly what the trailers were leading up to be, to a T, and that ending. Man, that ending. Grand is really the only word I could use to describe it. It's a great cherry on top of the best film about films of the year. Sorry, Spielberg. And now, spoiler time. Earlier, I was talking about how there were a number of really great lengthy sequences in this, but the one that really takes the cake is Nellie Leroy's first shoot with sound. Everything about that scene is perfect. Nothing literally needs to be changed. It's probably the best scene Chazelle's directed since the ending of Whiplash, if I'm being honest. It also gave me the first and only time I actually laughed in the theater. The build-up of the jokes, the sound guide, the constant takes, and the constant interruptions made this my favorite scene in the movie by far. Another great sequence was Manny and Nellie's first break in Hollywood. I just loved the constant interweaving of the first day on set. And again, the direction and cinematography is perfect. There's nothing I changed about it. It's grand, full of energy, and it's exactly how I thought it would be. There's really only one scene I didn't like, and that's Tobey Maguire's underground party. I get that it's supposed to show Hollywood's unspoken underbelly, but it felt like it deviated from the main story just a bit too much. Also, even though Hurwitz has another great score under his belt, there was one song that was way too similar to that of a track off of La La Land's score. I wouldn't say it's that big of a nitpick until it got used a lot throughout the film, so all it did was harken back to La La Land, for worse probably. Other than that, a fantastic and groovy score. And to end, let's talk about the end. By now, I think we could all expect a sort of crescendo from Damien Chazelle films. Whiplash's final performance, La La Land's a different ending scene, and First Man's grand landing support this hypothesis. And man, he just did it again here. Manny literally losing himself in the theater, a belief he had held earlier when he was a nobody, gives a nice bow of an ending to the film, and the montage of the films throughout the years, from Trip to the Moon, to Metropolis, to 2001, to Avatar, funny enough. It's chef's kiss. This is cinema. I'm honestly feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this. The same score I'd give La La Land, with that as a preference over this. Overall, great movie, I loved it in its totality, and I can't wait for more Chazelle films to come. This was A Piece of Media. Thanks for watching.